Following their directions, I find the house where Chris spent most of his youth. The McCandlesses no longer live here, but this is it. Not exactly what I anticipated. Based on descriptions of him being from a quote-unquote well-to-do family, I expected something more stately. But then again, we're talking about the 70s, well before McMansions made their way into the suburbs, so maybe I'm wrong. I head over to W.T. Woodson, where Chris went to high school. From what I can gather, Chris was an excellent student and a good athlete, the former done with relative ease, the latter through sheer determination. Cross country was Chris's sport, and it suited him perfectly. Later that afternoon, I meet up with his old coach.
My name is Matt Murray. I was Chris's cross-country coach at Woodson High School for 3 years that he ran here. And he was actually one of our team captains his junior year. Is still on the elite list of Woodson cross-country runners that broke 16 minutes. Chris was always somebody that kind of marched to the beat of a different drummer. Kind of always thought of him as a kind of a Don Quixote type, very idealistic, but not always in the most prudent of ways. I still remember him as he was for his high school years, when he was that fun-loving, kind of quirky guy. And when I think of what happened to him, I think that he went through some changes that he kept very personal, that I don't think we will ever really know exactly what he was going through.
This is Chris's freshman year dorm at Emory. I know this because it turns out his first roommate, Fred Widland, is an old friend of mine. Fred and I knew each other at Tufts after he transferred from Emory. In fact, I was once Fred's roommate too, for a summer down on Cape Cod after sophomore year. Fred now lives in Manhattan and makes promos for the NBA. When I passed through New York on my way south, I took the bus out to Secaucus and met him during his lunch hour.
I have two distinct memories of him. One of them is from our freshman philosophy class, was how much he got into it. He became quickly deeply involved in it. I remember one time borrowing his notes, and it was from one class, it was just pages and pages, very small handwriting, back and forth, front and back of the page. Obviously, he got into it far more than I did. Although being in the same class with him, he never participated, at least to my memory, but he was definitely into it. And then that sort of conscientious effort in that class was contrasted to a couple of times when he went out drinking. I remember one time I came back to the room. I hadn't been drinking like that. And he was wildly drunk. And he wanted to continue on with the drinking, but I was trying to tell him that, things are closed. We can't go back to that bar or wherever he had been. And I was, why don't you just go to sleep? But he was out of his mind, drunk, and he wouldn't accept that. And he then began to threaten. He wanted to go rob a liquor store. That's how he wanted to go get more booze. Just he was going to go out. And it actually got to the point where I'm much bigger than he is or was, and I had to get in front of the door and physically block him from leaving the room. Because I lost touch with Chris after that freshman year, I never had contact with him again. I don't know the person that he became, but with all this hype surrounding him and what he did, it is always kind of interesting to me that, I know just this guy who seemed to be socially inept, kind of scared of people, and couldn't handle his drinking. And so I see it more of this guy who kind of went off by himself and just kept going further and further off by himself.